right, let's get right into it. We are going to build your personal toolkit for refueling your motivation, and we're pulling some amazing insights straight from the motivational handbook. If you've ever felt like your drive has just vanished, then you're in the right place.
You know that feeling, right? We've all been there. Your big passion project suddenly starts to feel like a total chore. Your most important goals seem miles away, maybe even impossible. You just hit a wall, and that fire you had at the beginning, well, it's pretty much gone. So, what even is motivation when you break it down? The handbook puts it perfectly. It's fuel. It's the energy that turns a boring task into something meaningful. Without that fuel, even the most exciting goal just feels hollow and pointless. And here's a really important distinction to make. A machine works because, well, it's programmed to. A person, on the other hand, works hard because they're motivated. That's the key human ingredient. And just like fuel in a car, your motivation can run out, especially after a big setback. Okay, so how do we actually refuel that tank? Well, the very first step is all about mastering your mindset. You've got to win the internal.
All right, let's get right into it. We are going to build your personal toolkit for refueling your motivation, and we're pulling some amazing insights straight from the motivational handbook. If you've ever felt like your drive has just vanished, then you're in the right place.
You know that feeling, right? We've all been there. Your big passion project suddenly starts to feel like a total chore. Your most important goals seem miles away, maybe even impossible. You just hit a wall, and that fire you had at the beginning, well, it's pretty much gone. So, what even is motivation when you break it down? The handbook puts it perfectly. It's fuel. It's the energy that turns a boring task into something meaningful. Without that fuel, even the most exciting goal just feels hollow and pointless. And here's a really important distinction to make. A machine works because, well, it's programmed to. A person, on the other hand, works hard because they're motivated. That's the key human ingredient. And just like fuel in a car, your motivation can run out, especially after a big setback. Okay, so how do we actually refuel that tank? Well, the very first step is all about mastering your mindset. You've got to win the internal game before you can even think about winning the external one. This really comes down to 3 huge mental shifts. First, you've got to see positivity not as something you're born with, but as a muscle you can actually build with practice. Second, and this is a big one, stop fighting your negative thoughts. It's exhausting. Instead, just accept that they're normal. That's how you take their power away. And third, learn to be your own source of inspiration. That way, your drive is never dependent on anyone else. And here's a really cool balancing act you can try. On one hand, you have humble optimism. That means staying positive, but keeping it grounded in reality so you don't get totally crushed by disappointment. But you pair that with healthy pessimism. Basically, you anticipate that things might go wrong. See, that's not being negative, it's being prepared so you can bounce back way faster when they do. Let's be honest, we are often our own worst critics, right? Our own worst bullies. The core message here is just to show yourself some compassion. When you give yourself a break, when you loosen up, like the quote says, you create that mental space you need to actually recharge and feel lighter. All right, so you've got your head in the game. Now it's time to build the external framework. Let's talk about designing your drive with a really clear roadmap for action. You know how a massive goal can just feel paralyzing? The solution is to break it down. Figure out your ultimate destination, sure, but absolutely have to make that progress visible. I mean, think about a download bar on your computer. Seeing it inch forward is weirdly satisfying, right? A progress chart does the exact same thing for your goals. It makes your achievements feel real and keeps you hooked until you hit that 100% mark. Look, life almost never follows the script we write for it. And that's why having a backup plan isn't a sign of doubt. It's a sign of being smart. Just knowing you have a plan B in your back pocket if things go sideways can save you so much frustration and keep you from feeling completely derailed by a single obstacle. So, you've got the mindset and the roadmap, but what about the engine that's actually powering all of this? Part 3 is all about fueling your body, because your physical energy is directly tied to your mental drive. The mind-body connection is not a myth, people. It is a critical link. A body that's physically exhausted is basically a breeding ground for stress, burnout, and emotional roller coasters. A strong, well-fueled body is the foundation for a resilient, motivated mind. Simple as that. And the handbook is crystal clear on this. Sleep is absolutely non-negotiable. It's not a luxury, it's essential maintenance. While you're sleeping, your brain is busy processing problems, managing stress, and recharging your batteries. Skimping on sleep is like trying to run a marathon on an empty tank. It's just not going to work. What you eat and drink is also a strategic choice. Need a quick little boost to your mood? Something energizing like a bit of chocolate or some coffee can do the trick. Feeling kind of foggy and slow? Something refreshing like water with lemon can help clear your head and wake you up. The handbook also points out a few quick physical resets. You could do a short burst of exercise to get your metabolism going, or take a 10-minute power nap to reset your focus. A cold shower can instantly shake off that mental fog. And even just waking up a little earlier can set a more proactive, positive tone for your whole day. Our final pillar is the one that really connects everything else. You've worked on your mind, you've made a plan, and you're fueling your body. Now it's time to build your tribe. Because motivation doesn't survive in a vacuum, it actually thrives in a community. There's a really simple reason you should share your goals with people. Secrecy just makes it too easy to quit. The moment you make your plans public, you create accountability. You're basically telling the world, hey, I'm doing this, and that invites the exact kind of encouragement you're going to need when your own drive starts to sputter. Now, a strong support system isn't just one type of person. It has 4 distinct roles. You need your why, the people you're doing this for. You need a confidant, a safe person to vent to. You need a goal buddy for some healthy competition. And, maybe most importantly, you need a criticism buddy, that one person who will honestly tell you the risks you're completely ignoring. And this support can come from literally anywhere. Family, online groups, mentors, even just from studying successful people. The key thing to remember is that motivation is not a solo mission. Building your support network is a strategic, vital part of the process.
So let's bring it all together now. We've just walked through and built a pretty comprehensive toolkit for taking back control of your motivation.
Just remember these 4 pillars. Master your internal mindset first. Then design a clear, actionable drive. Fuel your body for peak performance. And finally, build a support system that can hold you up. These are the keys to having a renewable source of motivation.
And that brings us to the most empowering idea in this entire handbook. We often feel like motivation is this mysterious force that just comes and goes. But it's not. It's an internal state. It starts in your mind, which means that with the right tools, you can have full control over it. So I'll leave you with this one question. Forget trying to do everything all at once. Looking at this toolkit we just built, what is the one single step you're going to take today to start refueling your fire?
Welcome back to the deep dive. We are tackling a subject today that it feels like it dominates about 50% of the internet.
At least.
Yeah, and yet somehow it remains the most elusive part of our actual daily lives.
Yeah.
I am talking about motivation. And before you roll your eyes and think we're going to talk about those, hanging there cat posters or someone screaming at you to just grind.
No.
Let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
We are absolutely not doing the buzzword version of this topic.
No, definitely not. We're looking at the engine under the hood. The goal today is to strip away all that fluff.
Exactly. And we've pulled a really comprehensive source for this one. It's a text titled The Motivational Handbook, 101 Ways to Refuel Your Drive.
Right.
And the reason we chose this one is that it treats motivation not as some mystical feeling you just have to, wait for.
Or pray for.
Or pray for, yeah.
Right.
But as a mechanical system. A system you can break, but more importantly, a system you can fix.
That is the key distinction right there. Most people treat motivation like the weather.
Oh, I hope it's sunny today.
Exactly. I hope I feel motivated today. But this text, it opens with a definition that really just sets the stage for everything else. It defines motivation as the specific difference between a hardworking person and a hardworking machine.
That's a really interesting way to frame it.
It is, isn't it? Because a machine works because it's programmed to. It has no choice. It just executes code. A human works because of this internal, the text calls it an adrenaline rush in the bloodstream.
So it's a fuel, a biological thing.
It's a biological and a psychological fuel. And without that fuel, even the most talented person is just a stationary object.
And I think that fuel metaphor is where most of us get it wrong. We tend to think of motivation as like a character trait.
Oh, for sure.
Sarah's just a motivated person and I'm a lazy person. It's part of our identity. But this source says that's the wrong framework entirely.
It is deeply flawed. If you treat motivation like a permanent trait, you're just setting yourself up for a crisis. The text argues you need to treat it like gas in a car. You wouldn't expect your car to run forever on one tank. It empties. And it makes the point that it empties fastest when your goals are really far away or abstract. It's not a permanent state, it's a consumable.
The source also mentions that the tank can be like punctured. It's not just about using fuel slowly, you can lose it all at once.
This is the shock factor.
Yeah.
The book gives the example of a basketball player. You can be hyped up, totally ready to play, fully fueled, and then you step onto the court and face an opponent who is just objectively better.
That slap in the face.
That realization, it
Yeah.
drains the tank
Yeah.
instantly. Or think about an environmentalist who spends years fighting for a cause only to see a report that mass pollution is getting worse. It's not that they suddenly became lazy, it's that their tank was ruptured by a discouraging reality.
So the core mission of this deep dive then
Mhm.
is to figure out how to manually refill that tank.
Right.
Because if it's a mechanism, there must be a manual, right?
Right.
The book breaks this down into 3 areas. The mental framework, the biological connection, which I found really surprising, and then the social dynamics. I want to start with the mental side because there's a term here that I think we really need to unpack. Humble optimism.
It sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it?
It totally does. Usually self-help books are just like, be positive, visualize the win. Why humble?
Because blind optimism is fragile. The text warns that if your optimism isn't, tethered to facts.
Grounded.
Yeah, grounded. If you're just telling yourself everything will be perfect, you are paving the way for a massive crash when reality hits. Humble optimism is about keeping your feet on the ground. You believe you can do it, but you acknowledge the difficulty. It's a much sturdier mindset.
Which pairs really well with the next concept, which might be my favorite counterintuitive insight from the whole text. Healthy pessimism. I mean, we're usually told to banish all negative thoughts. This one says, no, invite them in.
But for a very specific purpose. This isn't about wallowing in misery or anything. It's about shock absorption.
Okay.
If you refuse to acknowledge that things can go wrong, you are emotionally brittle. Healthy pessimism means you map out the failure points.
Yeah.
You say, okay, the car might break down, or the client might say no. You actually expect that failure is a possibility.
So when it happens, you aren't devastated.
Exactly. You don't go into shock. You just go, there's the obstacle I thought might happen, and you pivot. You bounce back faster because you were already braced for the blow.
There's a great example in the notes about a shouting boss that illustrates this.
Yes, the reframing technique. It's a classic. If your boss yells and you interpret it as, he hates me, or I'm going to get fired, your motivation just tanks.
Because of fear.
Right. But the text suggests you just reclassify the data. You tell yourself shouting is just his normal voice. You strip the fear out of it.
You turn a threat into a data point.
Boss is loud today. That's it. It stops draining your battery because you've decided it's just background noise.
Okay, so let's say we're using all this, but we're still stuck. We're in a slump. The text offers a tactical fix called jumping ahead. This deals with the classic, I'll do.
The jump ahead rule flips that completely. It says, do not wait for the feeling. Action has to precede the feeling. You force the start. You jump back on track before your brain is ready.
And the brain follows.
The brain follows. The excitement follows the action. You have to strike the match to get the heat. You can't wait for the heat to magically start the fire.
Let's look at how we structure that action. The text is very critical of the final goal. It says focusing only on the big ultimate outcome can actually be suffocating.
It creates a gap problem. If you're standing at the bottom of Everest and you only look at the peak, your brain just goes, impossible, too much energy, and it shuts you down. It's a defense mechanism, really.
So how do we trick the brain?
Strict segmentation. The book uses a money example. If your goal is $1 million, you never think about the million. You only think about the first 100,000.
The first milestone.
Right. And once you hit that, you reset. You aren't just 10% of the way there. You finished a whole chapter. You focus entirely on the immediate segment.
I love the analogy they use for this. The download bar.
It's so relatable, isn't it? Think about downloading a huge file. If there was no progress bar, just a blank screen, you'd be so anxious. Is it working? Is it frozen?
Right. But seeing that little bar move from 20% to 21%, it's weirdly satisfying.
It's a little hit of dopamine. You need to build a progress chart for your life that acts like that download bar. You need visual proof that you are moving.
And part of that planning, which connects back to healthy pessimism, is visualizing the bad stuff. the turns and blocks.
This is all about confidence. If you've only visualized the trophy ceremony the first time you trip, you're lost. But if you visualize the whole race, including the difficult turns and potential blocks, it's like a simulation.
And having a backup plan.
Exactly, the plan B. Some people think having a plan B means you expect to fail. The source says no, having a plan B prevents devastation. If plan A fails and you have nothing, you crash. If you have a backup, you just switch tracks. It preserves momentum.
And to keep that compass set, there's a daily recall.
Simple but essential. Wake up, and before the day hits you, just remind yourself why you're doing all this. Recalibrate immediately.
I want to shift gears to a section I think is often ignored.
Yeah.
We talk about the mind a lot, but this handbook has a huge section on what I'd call biohacking. The argument is basically you cannot run high-level software on broken hardware.
It's just a biological reality. A weak or stressed body cannot produce the neurotransmitters you need for high drive. The chemistry has to be there, and the text gets very specific, starting with diet.
I was very happy, very happy to see chocolate on the recommended list.
I knew you would latch onto that. But let's look at the context. It also mentions coffee products, truffles, exotic foods. It's not just about treating yourself. It's about using food as a utility, as a stimulant, to revitalize the system.
But it also draws a hard line on what to avoid. Specifically, sugary sodas when you're stressed. Out the water, it says to add lemon slices because the zest wakes the senses.
It's a sensory hack. That sharp citrus scent is a signal to the brain to alert up. It sounds so small, but motivation is often an accumulation of these tiny inputs.
Speaking of inputs, or lack thereof, let's talk sleep. The text is pretty rigid, 8 hours, or at least 6, but then it brings in Sigmund Freud.
Yes, Freud makes an unexpected appearance.
Go explain that connection. How does Freudian theory justify my afternoon nap?
So the text references the idea that the unconscious mind is a repository for stress and repressed thoughts. The argument is that when you sleep, your brain is actively processing problems and, well, throwing stressful thoughts into the unconscious. It's taking out the trash.
So a nap isn't laziness. It's a system reset.
It's a system reset. A 10-minute nap clears the RAM. You wake up with a clearer drive because your brain has filed away the junk that was clogging up your processing power.
I am going to use that. I'm not sleeping, boss. I am filing garbage into my unconscious.
Go for it. Up the mind and then calms it down. It's resilience training. If you can force yourself to stand under freezing water, you're training the muscle of doing things you don't want to do.
And coupled with that is the wake-up time. It says staying in bed after 7 a.m. makes you sluggish.
It claims that lingering just makes the body lethargic. You lose the initiative. You start the day on defense instead of offense.
Okay, we've fixed the mind. We've hacked the body. Now we have to deal with the most unpredictable variable, other people, the social dynamic section.
Yeah.
It starts with competition, which can be a double-edged sword.
It can.
It encourages friendly competition, but it makes a really smart distinction. It says you shouldn't necessarily race someone chasing the exact same goal.
I think that is brilliant advice. If we're both chasing the same promotion at work, that can get toxic fast. But if you're chasing a sales target and I'm training for a marathon,
We can race against each other's effort.
yes, we can push each other on discipline without being jealous of the reward. It's parallel motivation.
But what if jealousy does happen? The text addresses envy directly, and the advice is bizarre. It says if you're jealous of a friend, throw them a party.
It sounds completely nuts, but it's a fake it till you make it social hack. Envy is a battery drainer. It eats you up. By forcing yourself to celebrate their success, you're rewriting your brain's association.
You're overriding the envy subroutine.
Exactly. And you're keeping your support network, which is crucial.
Speaking of networks, the source breaks it down into specific roles. It's not just friends. You need a goal buddy, a confidant, and this is the interesting one, a criticism buddy.
And most of us avoid the criticism buddy. We want cheerleaders. We want people to tell us our ideas are gold.
We want validation.
Right. But a cheerleader will watch you drive off a cliff while clapping. A criticism buddy is the person you trust to say, hey, your plan has a hole in it, right here.
Yeah.
They're stress testing your motivation so it doesn't break later.
And then you have the confidant, the crying shoulder.
Yes, someone who just listens. Doesn't have to fix it. Sometimes you just need to offload the emotional weight so you can stand back up.
There's one more social trick here that I found really profound. The advice to change places with people. And it means literally like swap roles with a janitor or a cook.
It's about perspective scaling. We get so locked into our own problems, our quarterly reports, our emails, they feel like life or death situations. By stepping into someone else's shoes, seeing their world,
It shrinks your problems.
it resets the scale. Your huge problem becomes just one small thing in a complex world. The burden feels lighter.
I want to close our analysis with the section on unconventional boosts. These are the tips that made me stop and check if I was reading the right book. First up, vanity.
The stay pretty rule.
Stay pretty. It says take care of your skin, buy the expensive dress. It sounds so superficial.
It does, but there's real psychology there. It's what we call enclothed cognition. When you dress like a successful, capable person, you start to feel like one. It's very hard to feel motivated when you haven't washed your hair in 3 days.
And then there's the environment. We know about cleaning up clutter, but it talks about color affinity.
Right. Avoiding heavy, dark colors or aggressive reds in your workspace. Your environment is constantly sending signals to your brain. If the signals are chaos, you're leaking fuel just sitting there.
Okay, here's the one I've been waiting to ask you about. The handbook explicitly suggests Disney therapy. It recommends watching Snow White, Belle, and Ariel.
I know. It sounds ridiculous for a serious professional to be told to watch cartoons.
I mean, Snow White, really?
But look at the structure of those stories. They're archetypes of overcoming adversity. They feature characters in terrible situations who maintain hope and eventually reach a happily ever after.
So it's an injection of pure, unfiltered optimism.
Exactly. When you're in a dark place, a gritty documentary might just depress you more. Sometimes you need to be reminded, on a primal storytelling level, that things can work out.
And finally, there's the smile hack.
The 14 muscles.
It says there are 14 muscles required to smile, and you should stretch them even if you don't mean it.
This is classic biofeedback. Your brain monitors your body. If it senses that the smile muscles are active, it concludes, oh, we must be happy, and it releases a little bit of serotonin and dopamine. You can literally trick your brain into a better state.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've gone from humble optimism to Freudian naps to Disney therapy. If we have to synthesize this, what's the main takeaway?
The takeaway is that motivation is a composite. It's not one thing. It's a mix of mental framing, how you talk to yourself, it's biological management, how you eat and sleep, and it's environmental control, who you let into your circle.
The text makes a point that motivation is only in the mind. At first that sounded a little dismissive to me, like it's all in your head.
I can see that.
But I think it's actually the most empowering part of the book.
It is empowering. Because if it's in the mind, it means it's an imagination we can control. If we know the mechanisms, the levers to pull, we aren't at the mercy of our moods. We can manufacture drive.
Here's the thought I want to leave everyone with. The text says successes taste sweeter because we know failure. But if we go back to that opening metaphor, motivation is fuel, it really changes how we treat ourselves. If you were driving a car and it ran out of gas, you wouldn't get out and kick the tires. You wouldn't scream, you lazy, stupid car.
No, you just say, oh, it needs gas.
But with ourselves, when we lose motivation, we blame the car. We say, I'm broken, I'm lazy.
That is the shift. Stop blaming the vehicle.
Right. Maybe we aren't broken. Maybe we just forgot to refill. Maybe we missed the chocolate or the nap or the goal buddy check-in. It's a maintenance issue, not a moral failing.
Go check your fuel gauge.
Exactly. Thank you for listening to The Deep Dive. Go find your fuel, whatever it is, and we'll see you next time.